Okay, then we are now go on with the next presentation by Alfred Stett from Retina Implant AG. In the morning we have heard the presentation by Eberhard Trenner, and Eberhard Trenner founded in the end of the 90s a company called Retina Implant AG. Mr. Stett, are you ready?
Yes, now I'm ready. So, thank you very much to have the opportunity to introduce our system, Frau Kohlhaas. It was a very great presentation of your capabilities that you got again with your Argus 2 implant. So, I'm very impressed. The Alpha AMS you already know from the talk Eberhard Trenner gave in the morning. Retina Implant developed two systems for people suffering from retinitis pigmentosa. One is the Ocostim therapy that is intended for people that are not blind. It aims at to shift the curve where the visual field decreases into future. And for blind people, we made this Alpha AMS available. As Eberhard Trenner mentioned already, it's a subretinal implant in contrast to the Argus 2 implant we just heard. It is a small, light, sensitive chip that is implanted in the center of the retina beneath the fovea. And it gives, with this chip, people can have back some kind of vision comparable to we heard already from Ms. Kohlhaas. This chip contains 40 by 40 pixel, and each pixel picks up a small part of the image that is projected to the eye, and each pixel injects a small amount of current into the retina. This chip is in close contact with the retina, and by doing this stimulation, so-called phosphines are evoked in the patient. This system do not contain a camera, so the camera chip is implanted subretinally. Externally components are this handheld device that contains a battery and some means for controlled contrast and stimulation strengths. So with this implant, this natural path of image projection onto the eye and processing within the eye can be used. So it's scarcely noticeable. It doesn't need any external camera, as I mentioned before. So this enables the patient to use the natural eye movement and microsaccades to localize and fixate and follow objects, which are very important for object recognition and for giving rise for higher spatial resolution. So as we heard already in the morning, we did a number of clinical studies to show that the implant is safe and is able to provide useful visual perceptions to blinds, as you can see in the papers and you saw in the presentation of Eberhard Trenner in the morning. These studies mostly are concerned with so-called vision function. The capabilities are measured, spatial acuity and so on. But for daily living, it's not important how patients are good in recognizing Elandol C-rings or gratings and so on. It's more important to be able to use the implant in daily living situation in order to recognize a cutlery on the desk or find a way through openings or find the profiles of buildings and so on. So each patient have an individual situation where he is most impaired by his blindness. So we are looking on these situations, and we learned that the benefit that patients have from the implant is not similar from patient to patient. So we also learned, and we got this feedback from the patients, that the daily use and the frequent training is very important to create personal benefit. So let me quote one patient. He said, "The chip is comparable to a relationship. If I'm only passive and expect the chip to do wonders and solve all problems, then it does not work. It is about the willingness to deal with it. This creates activity and finally personal benefits." This is the way to get familiar with this artificial vision we already heard from Frau Kohlhaas. So it's not a natural seeing, it's an artificial seeing, and the patients have to do exercises and have to use it frequently to get the most out of the implant. So we developed an aftercare concept. It's a vision rehabilitation concept. Our patient care managers are doing training up to a year, intensive training up to a year in the domestic environment at the home of the patients in order to optimize the stimulation parameters, doing training at home for localizing and recognizing objects, identifies grayscales, hand-eye coordination, and so on. And also important is the doing an outdoor training where it's trained to identify houses, trees, and street signs, and to recognize obstacles and moving objects. So we learned also that it's very helpful to not only learn to see, but learn to see together with some haptic tools. So we provide the patient some kind of light box and stencil-like objects, so the patient can touch to a triangle or a square, and then he can correlate what he feels with what he is seeing, and so he is learning step by step what does it mean, what object is it that he is perceiving with the implant. So, and then also very important is to do training outside and inside. So the ability to train in mobility is very important. Here we see two situations, one indoor where the patient is going through the doorway without bumping to the door frame, and on the right side you see exercises, so he learns what he is seeing and he is able to recognize both roadsides together, so it's some kind of very natural moving he is learning here. And most surprising experience we were reported by a patient. So he was able to combine what he is seeing with his memories. So he was on traveling and at the North Cap, and he said that I could walk around on the ship with my device, and I was scanning the light-dark contrast with the chip. It was quite interesting. Whenever we were sailing through a fjord, I could scan the sky and notice where the rock would begin. This way, I could precisely trace the shape of the fjord, and all of a sudden, the contour filled with color without any eyesight. So, to be honest, with our implant, it's not possible to see colors, but he remembered how the color was when he was there, when he was not blind. So he learned to combine his impressions evoked by the implant to combine it with his memories. So in taking all together, we are sure that these electronic devices makes a difference. Retina implant Alpha S makes a difference. So the electronic devices today are available, are CE marked, and are very well helpful aid for blind people suffering from retinitis pigmentosa. I hope you saw that this implant helps to increase the independence in daily living, supported by the use of natural eye movement, and high hand-eye coordination can still be used. So we have established a rehabilitation program to foster the use of the implant and the integration of daily living situation. And very important, the treatment in Germany is covered by the health insurance. So let me end my presentation with a quote of another user of the implant. She said, "I was walking down this country lane. I did not have my white stick with me. I did not have my dog with me. And suddenly I thought, what I'm doing here? I'm walking along the road on my own." And that is what we want to have, that people get back some kind of independence. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, and as I've seen, you have also a stand in the lecture, in the main hall, and so if someone has detailed questions, you can
you can
ask,
come around. Yes,
they can ask at the
at the
stand,
counter.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think. Thank you very much.